What if the most powerful thing you could do right now in the middle of all the chaos, all the noise, all the uncertainty had nothing to do with what is happening out there, and everything to do with what is happening inside you? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear has been quietly changing lives for centuries, and most people have completely missed it. There is a weight to the news cycle right now that is genuinely hard to carry. You open your phone and within 60 seconds you've absorbed headlines about conflict, economic instability, social collapse, and predictions about what is coming next that make your stomach drop. And the thing that makes it worse is how inescapable it feels. You can log off, you can put the phone down, but the anxiety follows you into the kitchen, into bed, into the quiet moments that used to actually feel quiet. If that resonates with you, you are not alone, and more importantly, you are not without recourse. Across centuries and across cultures, the voice of Mary has carried a message that does not get nearly enough airtime in the modern conversation about faith. Not because it is obscure or complicated. Actually, it is the opposite. It has been overlooked precisely because it is too simple, too interior, too countercultural for a world that measures strength by how much you can stockpile, predict, and control. What she has consistently pointed toward through apparitions, through prayer, through the witness of those who have actually lived it, is something she calls peace. Not the peace that comes after the storm passes. The peace that holds steady while the storm is still raging. That distinction matters more than most people realize. We have been conditioned by culture, by the news, by our own nervous systems, to treat peace as a destination, something we'll arrive at once things settle down, once the diagnosis comes back clear, once the finances stabilize, once the political situation resolves. But Mary's message cuts directly against that framework. The peace she speaks of is not a reward for surviving difficulty, it is a foundation for moving through it. And it is available right now, not later, not when circumstances improve, but in this exact moment with all of its edges and uncertainties fully intact. The forgotten warning at the heart of her message is this: do not let fear be the thing that steers you. And I want to sit with it for a moment, because it sounds simple until you actually live it. Fear is not just an emotion, it is a lens. When fear becomes your operating system, it distorts everything it touches. It makes threats look larger than they are. It makes your own capacity look smaller than it is. It shuts down the generosity, the clarity, the compassion that are all absolutely essential for navigating hard times well. Fear paralyzes exactly the faculties you need most when things get difficult. Mary's counter-offer is not optimism or denial. It is something far more structurally sound. It is interior peace as a spiritual discipline, cultivated deliberately, protected fiercely, and offered outward as a gift. The practical architecture of this peace is built on what she has returned to again and again across every apparition, every message, every prayer she has ever invited us into. Trust in providence. Now, in an American context, the word providence can feel abstracted, almost old-fashioned, but what it actually means is startlingly concrete. It means that the details of your life are not random. It means that the God who numbers the hairs on your head is not watching your situation from a distance and hoping things work out. It means that there is an author behind your story. He has already seen the last page and who is right now, in what feels like chaos, working something purposeful through every single thread of your experience. Trusting providence is not passive resignation. It is the most active, courageous stance a human being can take. Choosing to believe that meaning is present even when you cannot perceive it, one of the most powerful tools Mary has ever placed in the hands of believers is the Rosary, and I want to address it honestly, even for those who are coming from outside the Catholic tradition. At its core, what the Rosary does is this: it gives the mind something true and eternal to meditate on while the hands stay busy and the world stays loud. The mysteries of Christ's life, his birth, his suffering, his resurrection, his glory, become the lens through which you are invited to see your own life. And something happens in that meditation that cannot be fully explained but can be absolutely experienced. The mind that was spinning with anxiety begins to slow. The perspective that was contracted around the immediate crisis begins to widen. The light at the end of the tunnel, which was real all along, becomes visible again. The Rosary is not magic. It is an anchor dropped into eternity, and that holds. This is the part of Mary's message that tends to get buried under the melodramatic prophetic content. The call to become a lighthouse, not a bunker, not a prepare, not a prophet of doom, not someone whose faith has made them more anxious rather than less. A lighthouse. Someone whose interior stillness is so real and so grounded that it becomes tangible to the people around them. You've met people like this. Maybe you had a grandparent, a pastor, a mentor, whose presence itself communicated something. You walked into their presence and settled and walked out steadier, and you couldn't fully articulate why. The quality of presence is not an accident of personality. It is the fruit of interior work done in private. It is what a soul looks like after years of choosing peace over panic, prayer over scrolling, trust over control. That is what Mary is inviting every single person watching this into. Not a spiritual elite, not people who have figured out how to avoid hardship. People ordinary, overwhelmed, sometimes exhausted people who have decided to build their interior house on something that storms cannot reach. Because here is the practical reality of a peace-filled heart that we rarely talk about. It is more effective than any other tool you have. A person who is genuinely at peace in a crisis does not need to say much. Their stability communicates. Their calm is contagious. Their face, visible in how they carry themselves rather than just in what they declare, reaches people who would never respond to an argument. There is a spiritual resistance built into this. That I down to what you miss. Choosing interior peace in the middle of cultural chaos is not withdrawal, it is confrontation. Every time you choose prayer over panic, every time you choose trust over the anxiety spiral, every time you protect the stillness in your soul instead of feeding it into the outrage machine, you are doing something profoundly counter-systemic. The world profits from your fear. Your fear keeps you clicking, keeps you consuming, keeps you manageable. A person who has found genuine peace in God is, in a very real sense, free. And free people are the ones who change things. Mary has mantled this image of shelter, of being held, of resting under something protective is not a metaphor for disengagement. It is the image of a warrior at rest before the battle, of someone who has brought their anxiety to a place of surrender and come back with something clearer and stronger than adrenaline. The noise of apocalyptic speculation, the fever pitch of prophecy watching, the constant churn of end teams content, all of it becomes something different when you are actually grounded in the peace she is offering. Not irrelevant, not ignored, but no longer able to destabilize you, because you are no longer building your sense of security on outcomes you cannot control. If you've made it this far, I want you to sit with one thing before you move on with your day. Your interior peace is not a luxury. It is not a spiritual bonus for people who have fewer problems than you. It is your most essential resource, and it is available to you right now through prayer, through trust, through the deliberate choice made again and again, sometimes hour by hour, to let God be the foundation rather than the emergency exit. You were not made to be consumed by fear. You were made to carry light, and the world needs that light far more urgently than it needs another anxious voice. If this message connected with something in you, if it named something you've been carrying, I want to invite you to subscribe to Living Hope right now, and turn on notifications so you never miss what is coming next. Share this with someone in your life who needs to hear it, because there is someone, you know there is, who is struggling under the weight of all of this, and you needs to be reminded that peace is not naive. It is the bravest thing a person can choose. The Immaculate Heart will triumph. The promise has already been made and it will be kept. And whatever tomorrow brings, you will not face it alone. That is not wishful thinking. That is the most reliable anchor you will ever find. And it has been waiting for you the whole time.